Trump says he wants to testify, and you've said that Melania would push him to take the stand. Do you think she's playing a role in his decision? Would she be an advisor in this situation?
I think behind closed doors, as a husband and wife, she would probably say, look, if you have nothing to hide, take the stand, type of a thing.
And she might for that reason, but of course there are considerations beyond just whether he has something to hide. There are real consequences in this case to him potentially testifying. And let's go into a little bit more of that.
And but I know this is just his bluster. And as your reporter said earlier, he has said this so many times that he's going to take the stand. And then he's going to come out and say, oh, my lawyers told me I couldn't, so I couldn't go out and do it, which is so funny because he doesn't listen to anyone. He doesn't listen to his lawyers. He doesn't listen to anyone. So it will be his choice, absolutely. But I think he knows if he takes the stand, that will cause him a lot of trouble.
And I think that is probably the case. And that is why, although this is one of the least objectively important consequences coming out of the hush money trial, which we're now into. It wasn't delayed, it's going forward. Trump has to worry about how his base is gonna interpret this. He's gonna have to worry about how independents are going to interpret this, how it might affect the outcomes of different states in a different way. With abortion being such an important topic in this election, how is that potentially going to play in this? The fact that he's very worried about what women think about him. But at the same time, behind all of that, there is the one woman, and how this is going to potentially affect that relationship for right now. And so we have a little bit of a preview coming from Stephanie Grisham about how this has worked for him in the past. Listen to this.
You were there, you were around when all of the Stormy Daniels allegations, the fallout, the furor about it all. What was that like inside the White House? I mean, what was the behavior of everybody? How concerned were they about this?
Oh, everybody was extremely concerned. Internally, people were in the West Wing were nervous of what us in the East Wing would be doing. Melania often came out with statements that, were not what the West Wing would want us to say about various different things. And so I recall one time, former president calling me from Air Force One to basically see how angry she was and to see if we were putting any statements out, because we never checked with the West Wing if we were going to say anything. So he definitely was worried. The West Wing was constantly checking in with me. What's going on? What's going on? I never shared with them, her thoughts on it, because that was kind of personal, private conversations between the two of us. When I said we're not going to the State of the Union, or she'll just meet him on Air Force One, I just stopped there. And I think they all knew in the West Wing not to push further or not to ask her to do any more than that.
And I think that that's amazing. Bear in mind that she was with Melania at the time. Like, setting aside the political stuff, setting aside even my hatred for Donald Trump, it's like a very humanizing and weird thing. He calls up, not her, other people. How mad is she when the details were first released? How angry is she? And look, they're allegations, so we're supposed to pretend that it didn't happen, even though it clearly did. He's just wondering how much trouble he's in. And now, he's before the cameras right now, and he's saying that he's super honored to be there. He's honored that this is a thing that he's still fighting over, whatever. And I wonder if he's thinking about that. How angry is she right now? Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you. There's so many levels of all of this brewing at the same time, Francesca, and just on a human level, I find it fascinating. What do you think?
I mean, I think she probably wants him to testify because she doesn't want to be back in the East Wing of the White House or wherever she is. Like, she doesn't want him to be president again. I don't think she wanted to be president and be first lady in the first place. I mean, she doesn't even like Christmas. Who cares? But she's like, yeah, go hang yourself. Go hang yourself with all your word salad. Get tripped up when the prosecution shows you a photo of your ex-wife, and you have to be like, yep, is that her? Or is that E. Jean Carroll? It's so easy to trip this guy up. He obviously incriminates himself in every single breath. And I mean, I really don't care about their relationship, except it's toxic and awful, and probably, yeah, I mean, more than golden handcuffs, just like just a golden shower of lies, all the lies. And it is incredibly embarrassing to have to be the woman by his side. Look, we're in a country, I'm old enough to remember, and I don't even say that sort of like in that phraseology or whatever. I just remember how people treated Hillary Clinton when she stayed with Bill Clinton after we found out about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky, right? Scandal, how could she, all this and that. All that's gone. All that is completely gone, right? And first of all, who cares? Like, I do think that this is not about whether or not he slept with her, but it should matter to his so-called evangelical, moral, traditional family values BS crowd. But it doesn't. Exactly, and it's like, if this were a Democrat, they would be hounding Melania. How are you still with this man? He cheated on while you were pregnant. They drag her through the mud, and this is the extent that MSNBC or liberals, we are the extent, like we're not dragging her. Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
like it is just so
God.
Wild. Yeah,
thank God.
Of course.
And maybe that's the small amount of like empathy that comes from the evolution of decades of media. Maybe it is just the fact that it's a Republican in this case. Maybe it would be the same if it was a Democrat. And I try to, obviously we center empathy and compassion in our sort of values web. That's it. Like I bear in mind at the same time, she has stood up for him. I'm not talking about the relationship stuff. I'm talking about like horrendous policies and stances he's taken, the racism and all that. So, if you want to have a personal problem with Melania, I think that she has provided you a lot of political reasons to do that. In terms of the relationship stuff, relationships are complicated. She could genuinely believe that he didn't do it. It's a whole complex situation. There's kids and everything. So I don't judge for that. And honestly, and I know that this is weird and I shouldn't have this feeling, but like, I just think about like, if it's announced, the judge bangs the gavel, he's going to prison for this. I just imagine the weight coming off of her shoulders. Oh my God, is she gonna sleep good that night?
She's gonna be a Disney princess waking up.
For better or worse, because she believes some bad things. Like I'm not like, there's this weird thing where people like imagine that she's like imprisoned by him or something. No, she's a fully functioning human who's willingly involved in all this. But again, just on a non-political level, the weight coming off. If there could be a camera on her face when it's announced, and it probably won't be announced, he'll probably find a way to wiggle out of consequences and all that. But if it does, that is going to be something. I hope it's not going to be Stephanie Grisham in the room with her at that point, but I hope that whoever is eventually writes a book, because that's going to be fascinating. Final point.
I think this case, final point is just, I think this case is really fascinating on a million different levels, because it exactly points to the hypocrisy of Republicans in this time when it comes to, again, their family values, and it comes to, again, like traditional masculinity and femininity and blah, blah, blah. And which is, women, you shut up. Pregnant women, you shut up. Who cares what your alpha male does, right? Even though we hate sex workers and we should, they're all trying to like, even adjacent sex workers are somehow trying to groom our kids. No, they're grooming your president, bro. Like that's exactly what happened. And then on top of that, we have to remember that this case was the very first thing that sort of came down on Donald Trump when he assumed his presidency, and it coincided with the Me Too movement. Donald Trump lured Stormy Daniels to his hotel room with the promise of a potential job. Hey, let's work together, let's do something. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking. If you're Stormy Daniels, you see a creep like Donald Trump, do not go to his hotel room. But this is the Harvey Weinstein thing. This is the thing that creates this 100%. Cascade of the Me Too movement, and this was kind of that first little snowball in the avalanche, I think, of what truly changed our culture, which was the Me Too movement.
Yeah, you're totally right. So we talked about the aspect of the job thing, but not in you did a far better job of linking it to, that's what the social movement fundamentally was about, was using the control you have over opportunities, financial opportunities, business opportunities. You're 100% right. I'm going to conclude with this because I just figured out how this thing should play out.
Yeah, please.
I'm not a PR person, but Melania, you should hire me because I have great ideas. I'm going to give you one right now. It's announced in court, he's going to prison for 16 years or whatever. Remember, up to 4 years in prison for each of the counts is 34. Nothing like that is going to happen, but hypothetically it could. She releases not a statement, not a speech, nothing like that. She doesn't go on Fox News. It's just an Instagram image. And it's like she does. It's gonna be a shot of her from behind, standing on like a balcony, looking out of a window. She loves doing stuff like that, sort of like metaphoric imagery. And there's no caption. It's just her on the balcony, looking out, and she's wearing the "I really don't care, do you" jacket. That's the whole thing. I just want to see that on Instagram. It would be so awesome.